Hi folks, and welcome back to our series on golf basics, which is primarily for beginning and intermediate golfers. First video we did was about setup. Today we're going to take a look at what I call the arc principle. And this model here in 3D is Bryson DeChambeau. So we're going to let that play here in a second. This is from 2016, so a little bit old, but there's a playback. Now we're going to go in and take his body out of the picture. Okay, so let's stop that there. Let's call the face-on view the width perspective. Okay, and so what we'll see in almost every single good player in the world going back to the 1900s is this principle of the arc has a width that's more narrow in the downswing than it was in the backswing. So let's let that play. So we can see that there. The red is well inside the blue arc going back and down, quite a bit different. And now as an overhead perspective view, so let's call this the depth dimension, back to front. So this line here is the target line, obviously where the club is starting at address. So now we can see the width principle here, but also there's different depths of the golf club as it goes up and down, okay? Now this would be more of a swing plane view. But obviously it now has height to it as well. And as you can see, Bryson has very little movement between the so-called plane going back and up and down and forward. And if you're wondering about this green dot here, that's how the 3D system estimates his center of mass during the swing. Now, unfortunately, it's not very common to have a 3D system for normal people. So if we take a look now at, let's zoom that in a little bit, Gary Woodland. One of the things you can look at in your own swing would be the width principle, okay? And it's pretty simple. You film yourself from face on, hopefully with a camera that's got a pretty decent frame rate. You can kind of pick a point when the shaft is about parallel to the ground on the backswing. And this was not a good frame rate because we can't capture that exact same position coming down. That's as close as we can get, but you can see. And I kind of ballparked measured this with Swing Catalyst, and it was roughly like 23 inches or so from that point to that point. So that's a good principle for all of us to remember. And the thing I like about these types of videos is it's not very technical, but it gives the brain a very clear picture, so that when you're formulating your swing, you can have these images in your mind as a beginner, especially that the club doesn't move up and down on the same arc from the width perspective. It can vary a little bit from the plane perspective. And then perhaps in a future video, we'll talk about how do these players make that arc more narrow in the downswing. But again, this is just a beginning basic look at some simple principles for golfers to, again, start to burn into your memory, your concepts of how to swing a golf club.